On a lonely planet slowly spinning its way to damnation, amid the incompetence and unpreparedness of lesser space programs, one team stands resilient against the herds, putting their lives on the line to aid those who were previously unaware of the quick save option. Yes, it's the incredible adventures of Jebediah and his crack team of Kerbinauts. They are the Blunderbirds, saving the Kerbin race one stranded explorer at a time.
It's once again time for another Kerbal Space Program Blunderbirds video. This is a series in which I rescue Kerbals stranded by over-ambitious players. And I usually only really pick missions that I think represent a good challenge or an interesting problem to solve these days. And when I saw Super Sus Seal Pond's message on my Discord, which you can join below by the way, I was intrigued. Not only do we have to recover 6 Kerbals in total, we have to rescue them from Laythe, which is a fairly challenging destination to go to and return from. Not only this, but there are 2 groups of strandees, which are literally on complete opposite sides of Laythe, further adding to the challenge. And if that wasn't enough, 3 of them are in the ocean, meaning I'll need some sort of aquatic craft that can land there, recover the Kerbals, and then fly them to rendezvous with the land-based crew. At least that was my plan. I guess we could have done 2 completely separate landers that would go to and from low Laythe orbit, rescuing both crews separately, but my mind went to this plan instead. On screen you've just seen me complete the build of a 3-seat light aircraft, which has enough Delta V to fly the vast distance from one crash site to the other, and it's able to land in and launch from the ocean. And it does this using helicopter blades. VTOL was the way to go. I used to do a lot of seaplane stuff back in the day, especially on Laythe, but recent updates to, I think it's the Scatterer mod, have meant that waves are a big problem these days. It's essentially impossible, at least for me, to pick up enough speed on the surface of the water to take off like a conventional seaplane. You just end up smacking into a wave and losing all momentum. So VTOL was the way to go. And I picked helicopter blades because for the past 2 videos I've done on this channel, they've been me slowly trying to refine my skills building helicopters. So why not continue tradition today and use helicopter blades to perform the liftoff? But yeah, the purpose of that aircraft was to transport the 3 ocean-bound strandees to the island strandees. Once they're all there, this craft will come into play. It has enough seats for all 6 strandees and a rescue pilot, which will descend from a mothership in Laythe orbit, land, collect the Kerbals, and then return to Laythe orbit. I think I kind of rushed the build of the mothership though. The plan was to use that Mark II inline docking port on this aircraft to dock with the mothership, but I'm just going to spoil things now and say that I completely forgot to do this. So the Kerbals are going to have to EVA across instead, so that inline docking port is a bit of a useless feature. But hey, if you want to get this craft file and make any necessary upgrades, then I'm now sharing download links for my Patreon and YouTube channel members. I feel like I don't do enough rewards for people on those platforms, so this is just a small way that I'm saying thank you. And, you know, if you want the craft file for free, well, you can always follow along with the build video. Maybe you'll get as fast as me. Did you know these aren't actually time-lapse? I'm just that fast at building stuff in KSP these days. But yeah, link in the description for Patreon and YouTube channel members if you want the craft file. You know, speaking of the craft, it's basically all done. So you can sort of see how I've sort of stuck the 2 not the 2 SSTOs, the SSTO and the aircraft together with those girders kind of holding the whole skeleton together, with the kind of crew capsules at the very top of the stack and the nuclear transfer stage, currently under construction, at the bottom of the stack. I've kind of become very fond of this little technique where I have the fairing kind of enclose the nuclear engines like that for takeoff, but keeping the liquid fuel tanks exposed. I love the kind of Mercury Redstone style look it has. I'll probably get bored of this style eventually, but it's been a bit of a theme for my past few videos, at least the videos in which I've been going to kind of far-flung destinations that require a lot of Delta V, which of course I've been doing a lot of outer planet stuff, which are very long distances. I've been needing the high amount of Delta V. I did leave a poll on my channel actually, I think it was this week, and I said, how would people feel about a science mode playthrough like Lowne Aerospace style, but not presented as tutorial? So I just go ahead and just do a fun mission with a cool looking craft, not worrying about explaining every single little minute piece of information about how to do this and that and all that. And it was a really positive response. A lot of people asked for incorporation of things like the Outer Planets mod, stuff like that. I'm thinking I'll probably keep this series stock, but then I'll do another playthrough with the community tech tree installed. So that's like a fully modded playthrough, and then I can have things like Outer Planets to keep things spiced up. I don't know, does that sound like a good compromise? I'd like to hear some feedback in the comment section below if you're interested in this sort of thing. Anyway, quick fade across to the tracking station, time warping to a Joule transfer window. Draw a line from Kerbin to the sun to Joule. The angle that line forms at the sun should be about 101 degrees, which I think that's what that was, just eyeballing it. Joule's got such a massive gravity well, you don't need to be super duper accurate with the transfer window. And then we can zoom down. Oh, I see there's a bit of a storm brewing here. Not a very sensible day to launch, especially with such a aerodynamically terrible rocket. But there it is on the pad anyway, getting ready to launch. So I guess, well, let's just go ahead and launch it, shall we? And yes, we are off to a somewhat slow start. The thrust weight ratio of this thing isn't the best because it's so big, but we are speeding up as we ascend through the atmosphere. And we're about to punch through those storm clouds, courtesy of BlackRack's Volumetric Clouds mod. Oh, look at that lightning bolt just there. It's such a game-changing mod. I love it so much. And yeah, here we are, punching through. Ooh, it's a very... I thought it was going to be a quick thing, but no, it's a very thick cloud, wasn't it? And Valentina is now under the blue sky as she ascends on her own. You see, normally I like to send, you know, some of the OG Kerbals, so Jeb, Bill, or Bob, or Val. But Jeb, Bill, and Bob make up one of the stranded crews. So we've only got Valentina here to steer the rescue craft. So she's going to be on her own for the first half of the trip, but of course, she'll be accompanied by the 6 rescued Kerbals for the journey back. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything more to really add about the rocket before we start staging it and things start disappearing. I don't think there is. Oh, we're about to stage, actually. And look at that nominal hot stage separation of the second stage, I guess. And there we are. I'm just orienting the planes to be kind of... So they're flying... flat. I was just like, how do I even word that? So they're not flying sideways, basically. So one's flying upside down, one's flying not upside down, so the right way up, just because it kind of looks visually better. I don't know. If you're enjoying this video, guys, don't forget to leave a like down below, and of course subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. If you enjoy Kerbal Space Program content, I aim to get KSP content out every single Saturday. And yeah, we've been doing quite a lot of longer videos recently. I think normally I used to aim for kind of 20 minutes, kind of the sweet spot for duration of a KSP video. But it feels like the past few weeks, they've all been kind of like 40 minutes long, and this one is no exception. So I hope you guys enjoy the longer videos. I usually get quite good responses to the kind of the longer runtime videos, so I'll try and keep at the pace if I can. I've got a few trips planned for summer, so maybe as we get to kind of the main summer months, they're about to be shorter videos just because I literally don't have enough time to make the longer missions, but hopefully that won't happen. We'll have to just wait and see, I guess. Anyway, we have now achieved low Kerbin orbit, so now it's time to set Joule as our target and then plan a maneuver to not get to Joule. Well, we're going to make a maneuver note to make sure we get on a Joule intercept, so we'll wait for it. There we are, we've got a Joule encounter just there, but then we're going to drag on retrograde in just a second to reduce that down to kind of get us to be just shy of Kerbin escape velocity. Because this craft has really, really poor thrust weight ratios, it's more efficient to split our burn to Joule in 2, so that we're spending more time burning as close to Kerbin periapsis as possible, thus making maximal use of the O-berth effect. And here we are, beginning burn 1 of 2. I can just speed the footage up nice and quick there to get it over and done with, because it's a very slow burn. Again, we've got quite low thrust weight ratio. Even though we've got 8 nuclear engines, the nuclear engines have very low thrust, and we have a fairly high mass in terms of how much the craft weighs. So yeah, so now we just go ahead and plan our second burn. That's just going to get us an encounter with Joule. Not a perfect encounter though, because Joule's orbit, or Joule and Kerbin kind of orbit at slightly different tilts around the sun, to use the proper physics terminology there. So we're going to have to do a mid-course correction burn anyway to change our I guess we'll stick with the word tilt, shall I? To make sure our Joule encounter is, better, so we actually encounter Laythe. So all I aimed for was kind of a rough Joule encounter for this second burn, and then we'll refine the encounter whilst we're in interplanetary space. But wait for it. We've just got to watch the maneuver line there, and there we are. Our orbital line is now intersecting into the Joule system. But yeah, I feel like I don't want to get my content to get too stale. I'm just thinking back. I feel like the past few videos have either been going to Joule or Sarnus, which are both very similar planets, right? They're both gas giants with 5 moons around them. And I've been going to the moons with atmosphere. So going to Tecto and going to Laythe. So maybe, I don't know, any suggestions for next week's video? Maybe next week's video, in fact, could be the first episode of Lowne Aerospace 3, the third one, which is, what I outlined during the build portion of this video. I mean, I do have an Excel file, actually, that has all my plans for KSP videos in 2025. I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I think I've mentioned it before briefly in another video. But basically, one of the big issues I have, because I've been doing this now for over 10 years, is that it's very easy to get writer's block when trying to come up with Kerbal Space Program video ideas, basically. So what I did was I just wrote off one Saturday, so I kind of allocate time in my week to make the video for Saturday. I wrote off that there's not going to be a video this Saturday. Instead, I'm just going to sit down and come up with a load of ideas and plan out the entire year, so I don't have to think about planning missions. I just have a big plan. So stuff like Blunderbirds obviously is very spontaneous, so sometimes I can just leave a few weeks blank, or I did a video idea. I came up with a video idea that turned out to be rubbish or too ambitious. Like one idea I had was building a submarine, and my submarine didn't really work, but then an interesting Blunderbirds video idea came up, so I did that instead. So things like that. But yeah, what do I have planned for next week? Let's see. I wrote down Outer Planets mod showcase. Okay, so maybe we'll go to Outer Planets next week. I mean, there is one more. So basically with Outer Planets, which I think I've got installed on this save file, Outer Planets, it adds up a bunch of moons and planets. Is what the word I was looking for. So it adds a gas giant, adds Sarnus, and it adds 2 ice giants as well. So like Uranus and Neptune, Nidon and Erlem. And one of those gas giants, I think it's Nidon, but I'm not quite sure, has a moon with atmosphere. So it's cool. Like, atmospheric bodies are really, really cool in Kerbal Space Program. And it's got a really, really thin atmosphere, though. So it's like even more tenuous than Duna's atmosphere. It's really, really thin. It's like very, very hard. Like parachutes are functionally useless on it. And I can't remember the name of this body, but it looked very intriguing. So I'm thinking I would like to go there. And then maybe we'll give Outer Planets a little bit of a break. And then maybe I'll do like a Sarnus 5. I said that so casually, like it's Sarnus 5, basically build one craft that can land on every single moon of Sarnus and return to Kerbin. I think it should be fairly easy, right? I feel like it'll be easier than a Joule 5, right? But I don't know, I've never attempted it. But just looking at the Delta V numbers, I feel like Sarnus 5 is not as hard as Joule 5, and I've done quite a few Joule 5s at this stage. So we'll see. I'm kind of confident that a Sarnus 5 mission should be fairly easily doable and on the cards. What do you guys think? Would you like to see a Sarnus 5? I think most people probably would, but, always open to other ideas from people in the comments. I think more like funny mods as well. So I did Scott Munley a couple of years ago, I think. And I've also done Bargain Rocket Parts, which basically adds a load of rocket parts made of cardboard and tin cans and barbecues and things like that. I'd like to try maybe more funny mods. I think there's a burger mod. I don't know if it's been updated to the latest version of KSP, but I can downgrade or find other copies of KSP that might be compatible. It just basically adds burger parts. You can build a flying burger. And yeah, are there any other funny... I feel like, is there a flat Kerbin mod? I feel like I've heard of a flat Kerbin mod existing a while ago. Maybe that would be a fun thing to do. It's been on my mind recently because, like, when I record KSP videos and then when I'm editing the videos, I usually like having something on my second screen just to listen to. And I was listening to, I don't know if you guys heard of this guy called Professor Dave Explains. I've been on a real binge of his channel. He does a lot of flat earth debunking videos and debating flat earthers. And they're very entertaining. They're also infuriating because the flat earthers he debates are so, like, brain dead. So it's quite infuriating to hear their arguments make no sense and then they think that they've won. But yeah, that was a good little thing that I binged, so maybe I'll look into a flat Kerbin video if such a mod exists. Anyway, I just looked back at the screen after rambling about goodness knows what for the past however many minutes, and we're entering Laythe's atmosphere. So as you can see, I added 2 little deorbit engines on this little plane here just so we could deorbit, because obviously it's only got jet engines on the aircraft itself, which are useless in the vacuum of space. And now we're just descending down. I wasn't worried about overheating because Laythe's atmosphere is really, really thin compared to Kerbin's. Well, it's not really, really thin compared to Kerbin's, but it is thinner, such that, you're less likely to burn up on entry, basically. Especially coming from low Laythe orbit, where, Laythe's orbital velocity at Laythe is much lower than orbital velocity on Kerbin. So yeah, all those factors together meant that I wasn't worried about re-entry heating. So here we are. I was a bit worried about breaking up on splashdown though, so I was going really, really carefully. I also wanted to get close to the Kerbals though, so they weren't to swim very far. Let's just see how that went. And there we have it, splashdown in the oceans, or an ocean of Laythe. the deGrasse Sea, I believe that is. I believe that's potentially a reference to Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah, there we are. So now we've just got Jebediah going for a little swim here. And things didn't go perfectly, guys. We're going to speed up the footage here, so I don't know how easy this is to watch, just because, you know, Kerbals don't swim very fast. Even though, like, my theory is that they're aquatic, because why are there no cities on Kerbin, but they've got a really sophisticated space center? Do Kerbals just live underwater? That's my, like, headcanon. And that's not, like, an original thought. I read that somewhere, and I was like, that sounds plausible, and just gone with it. But yeah, anyway, on to the problem. As you can see, Jebediah Kerbin, he can't board. There was no board button showing up, which was quite frustrating because I did test this craft to make sure that Kerbals could, you know, get on board and the ladders weren't somehow blocking the hatch, but I couldn't get him on board. So I was getting a bit worried that we would need to send a rescue mission for the rescue mission for the rescue mission. But then luckily I remembered that Bill Kerbin is among the stranded crew, and Bill Kerbin is of course an engineer. So we can make modifications to the craft, because my theory was that maybe those ladder pieces are somehow blocking the board ability, the ability to board the craft. I've no idea why, but I thought I'd just move that top ladder just to see if it then made, you know, craft boarding possible. That was a really, I should have written that down and just read the script rather than just ad-lib it, but what are you going to do? We are now 17 minutes, 20 seconds. Everyone that was kind of bored has already left. And speaking of board, you see, it was all going somewhere, I think. We have boarded the craft. So all is well and good. We can, the Kerbals can definitely get on board and rendezvous with their island, the island people, the islanders. So, I wanted Jebediah Kerbin to be the pilot, so we're going to get Bob Kerbin on next. He's going to get into the little rear crew compartment with Bill Kerbin. Very, very clumsily boarding. Like I say, the waves update to Scatterer has made it kind of difficult to do stuff in the water. You can hear the splashing as well. That's why I found that seaplanes just don't really work anymore. They used to work really well before, the waves just used to be visual in Scatterer, but now they're actually functional, and so now it's really hard to do seaplanes. Maybe there's a setting you can change to make the waves not have collision. Is that the right word? And it just functions like just one flat plane. But I don't know. I feel like this is a kind of a good challenge. So yeah, this is me overcoming that challenge. So all the Kerbals are now on board. We're going to go ahead. Oof, it's a long old way. The island Kerbals. So first things first, I decided to time warp round so that we would spend most of the flight during the day, just so you guys have something a bit more visually interesting to look at. So we're going to time warp just at sunrise. So we're at sunrise. The other Kerbals are at sunset. Obviously, Laythe will continue to rotate during the flight, so we are going to be landing at nighttime. But, you know, for the most of the flight, we'll be flying during the day. So at the moment, the rotors can't move because they're kind of anchored in place by those strut pieces. So we'll have to we'll have to disconnect those struts in a second. I've just set the torque limit to maximum on the rotors so that they'll actually spin up when I enable them. We've now disconnected the struts, and we just need to deploy the rotors now, which I really should have set to an action group, but what are you going to do? So we're going to right-click them, press deploy, and I've set the deploy angle to H and N on the keyboard, so forwards and backwards RCS thruster controls, basically. And then we can go ahead and just sort of sort out the alignment, so I don't even just about see the angle there changing. I kind of eyeballed it to what looked appropriate for takeoff, and then we can adjust accordingly. And then we're going to fire up the jet engine so we can start building up some forward momentum, because once we're kind of sufficiently high, we can just detach those helicopter rotors. The plane will drop a little bit, but hopefully we'll have enough speed that we won't just impact the sea. We can swoop up and begin the long trip round Laythe. Yeah, it was a long thing to do in real life. I think I looked back at the footage, it was about 25 minutes in real time. So yeah, definitely enjoyed listening to Professor Dave explains why the Earth is not flat for this duration. So thank you, Dave, if you're watching. You're probably not. But yeah, as you can see, we can take flight above the clouds. Doesn't it look lovely? I'm now watching footage that's playing back at 1 frame a minute because I've sped the footage up quite a bit, and obviously it's 4K color corrected footage. Vegas Pro doesn't really play that back very well. If anyone watches my Planet Coaster videos, or when I used to make Planet Coaster videos, you'll know the woes of this all too well, because I used to do a lot of very long videos, like an hour-long videos, but they're all heavily time-lapse. So I was literally looking at a preview screen that was playing back like a PowerPoint presentation. So I was like, I think I'm placing some fences here, but I can't really tell from the footage. It's a similar sort of thing here. I'm like, the plane's sort of slowly creeping across the across Laythe, but I can't really make out any kind of details in the event. But Hope you guys are enjoying the flight. I'm very, very much looking forward to proof watching this video and seeing the satisfaction, hopefully, of the footage playing back really, really fast, especially with the knowledge of, you know, having lived the experience of flying this painfully in real time. I mean, I guess I could use time warp. I am using better time warp, so I can set physics time warp to 10 times real-time speed rather than being locked at 4 times real-time speed. But still, even with that, it took a long old time. But for you guys, it flew by. Is that a pun? Whatever. And now we are approaching the island on which the other 3 Kerbals are stranded. And I very nearly killed them, actually. I forgot that they were actually on EVA and not inside the pod. So I almost crashed into them and, yeah, ending them. So here we are. Ooh, mere inches away. But yeah, it was all fine, so we'll just pretend that that was never a potentially dangerous moment. And yeah, we're a little bit far away. Kerbals, they don't walk very quickly, so now I'm just going to roll back down to be as close as possible to make boarding the aircraft, well, disboarding, what's the word? Disembarking the aircraft for Jeb, Bill and Bob to be as smooth as possible, because, you know, we want them to be waiting with their friends who are just sort of staring at them rather lifelessly there. They've been standing there on Laythe for probably many years at this point, so I don't know why they weren't just sitting in their pod. You know, I guess they've got, like, you know, we've got Parallax Continued installed, so there are plants that they could live off. I guess they could go fishing in the seas of Laythe. There is a whale skeleton on Laythe, which could imply that there are, you know, sea creatures in the oceans. Obviously, I know that the whale skeleton, if anyone says it's a reference to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I've done a video, actually, visiting the whale skeleton. Maybe I'll put a card on screen, if I remember. And in KSP2, there is like a Leviathan skeleton on Laythe as well, if we consider KSP2 canon at this point, but that could imply there could be multiple Leviathan-sized creatures lurking beneath the waves of Laythe. So maybe you want to go fishing there. Maybe, probably wouldn't want to swim in the sea into the rescue aircraft and then have to spend ages there whilst another Kerbal has to reconfigure the aircraft so you can board it. Would have been fairly terrifying. Luckily, don't have to think about that, do we? Now it's time, as you can see, we have crossfaded back to the mothership to get to the second aircraft into play. So this is an SSTO rather than just a terrestrial aircraft because, of course, it needs to go back to orbit. And it's a single stage to orbit. That's what SSTO stands for, by the way. If anyone's been following this channel for many years and has never really known what SSTO stood for, then my back catalogue of videos might have been confusing because I've done quite a few SSTOs from Kerbin. What am I even doing? This isn't even a funny joke. Let's move on. We're just deorbiting with the nuclear engine at this stage. And of course, the craft is not being flown robotically. We have Valentina Kerbin on board, so she can personally go and greet the stranded Kerbals, who are probably all a little bit shell-shocked at this point. So again, re-entering, wasn't really worried about re-entry heating, or just entry heating. I always do this. I always say just re-entry naturally, even though we've not entered Laythe's atmosphere yet, so it's not a re-entry. Even though I guess we technically have, with another craft, so I don't know if that point even stands. Just eyeballing the surface, trying to find where the strandees are. There's quite a lot of islands around here, and I wasn't quite sure which one it was. So I was just really, really hoping the little reticule would show up on the screen to show me where the Kerbals are. And there it is. We now have a visual on the target. Maybe not target's the right word. A visual on the strandees, so we can go down and dive there with the SSTO, trying not to get as close as we did with the other aircraft. Oh, look at that shock cone appearing as we go subsonic. And getting ready to land. So we have those extra landing gear on kind of those wingtip fuel tanks. Those are only there to help with stability during landing and taxiing. They will make takeoff very difficult, so we'll actually retract those landing gears before we perform the takeoff from Laythe, just so that we can really use those bigger rear landing gears that are attached to the fuselage as kind of a nice fulcrum point. And there we are, a little bit of a deja vu. Power slide. I set the brakes to be really high just so we could stop on a dime. We didn't stop on a dime, but we stopped fairly quickly. Unrealistically quickly, one might say. And then we can just kind of roll down the hill to the stranded Kerbals. You can extend the ladder as well and get the Kerbals on board their rescue craft. And marking an end of an era for their very traumatic mission. I mean, we're now 2 years, 46 days into the rescue mission. The Kerbals have been stranded on Laythe for goodness knows how much longer than that. So this has been a long time coming. This is a big moment for those Kerbals. Just slowly backing it up. I don't know why I wasn't pressing brake just there, but there we are. I think this is pretty much close enough for the Kerbals to waddle their way over. Now, this player, what was his name? It was a really long, convoluted name. I had to write it down. Let's see. It was called Super Sussiel Pon. But Pon was spelt like P0M, so I have no idea. But they're from Eastern Europe, so some of the Kerbals, well, the non-stock Kerbals, all have like acrylic names, so I don't know how to pronounce any of their names, unfortunately. So we can just guess, right? So this is Bill Kerbin. I know how to pronounce that one. Let's just get him on board. There we are, buckled in. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and switch to, let's see. I'm guessing that surname is Kerman. So, Kerman is on board. Then we got Axna Kerman. I'm just trying like whichever like English letter looks closest to the acrylic letter. That's how I'm pronouncing it. And this, that's Jebel-Dyer Kerman. Is going to be sitting in the pilot seat because, of course, he is the crack Kerbal, who is the best pilot of them all. So they are now all on board the rescue craft. So now it's time to go ahead and think about taking off. So first of all, we're going to set our mothership as our target, and then I'm going to time warp far too long and launch at a point where our target is going to be nowhere near us when we actually reach orbit. So that was my bad, but we'll learn from this mistake. Let's go ahead now and fire up those engines and take off. And there we are airborne. It was a little bit touch and go. It was kind of a sketchy takeoff, and then here I almost crashed back onto the land, thus requiring another rescue mission, but luckily we were able to nose up and then we can head on to orbit. So although this thing is powered by just the rapiers and the nuclear engine, we're not going to use any oxidizers. You don't need the rapiers to fire in their closed cycle mode. Unlike Kerbin, Laythe, you can easily get to orbit with just liquid fuel. I still used rapiers rather than like the whiplash, just because the rapiers can kind of like continue burning to higher altitudes than the other jet engines. They still make the most sense for this use case, even though we don't need their like main feature, which is that they can burn in closed cycle mode like a normal chemical rocket engine. We can just keep things simple and efficient and use liquid fuel. And of course the nuclear engine will perform all the maneuvers that we need to do once we've run out of air that the rapiers can consume. But look at that beautiful jewel rise on the horizon there. I'm going to make sure we got jewel in the thumbnail somewhere. I feel like jewel, like whenever jewel is in a video's thumbnail, video does better. I don't know, that's purely anecdotal thing. I have no evidence to back this up. But yeah, look at that beautiful Firefly mod. If anyone wants to know what the why the heating effects and re-entry effects in these videos look so good, it's courtesy of the Firefly mod. People always ask me what mods I'm running, but they don't look in the video description, because every video I do since, like, I don't know, 2023 maybe, I don't know when I started doing it, but it was fairly a while ago now, I always add like a list of mods in the video description. So if you want to know what mods are running in this very install of Kerbal Space Program, then check the video description and your prayers will be answered. But yeah, now as you can see, we kind of did a realistic kind of ascent burn where we got a circular orbit in just one burn. We don't need to do another burn at apoapsis. It's only just an orbit, mind. Our paraapsis is 207 meters above the atmospheric border, but you know, that's fine. And as you can see, we are nowhere near our target. So I had to use the skip orbit button on the maneuver node maker, just so that, you know, we can just time warp to a point where our target's going to be a little bit close together. And then I just spent ages messing around trying to get those intercept nodes to be as close as possible. I don't really know why. I could have just done a second burn once doing the first one to get them closer, but I don't know. I guess I just strive for perfection, I guess. And yeah, we'll go ahead and just execute that maneuver node burn. So again, quite a bit of time warping to do, because you have to wait a few orbits for the targets to get a little bit close together. Oh, look at that. Again, another lovely little jewel rise there. And yeah, ready? Here goes the burn. We're now at that dreaded 30-minute mark where suddenly I start flagging and it's like, I've been talking. It's really, I don't know if you guys have ever tried this. You should just try sitting in a room and just talk continuously for 40 minutes. It's quite difficult, even though I have kind of a visual stimulus to kind of talk about, and I'm kind of used to this. And, you know, I'm talking into a microphone, so I don't look like a crazy person. Maybe like have like wear some AirPods or something with a microphone so that you don't look like an insane person if you try this experiment. But yeah, I mean, again, I bring up Planet Coaster again. Viewers of my Planet Coaster videos probably know that like by the 25-30 minute mark in an hour-long video, things tend to go a bit off the rails because unlike with KSP, where constant visual stimulus to kind of keep the conversation on track, I'm like, oh, here we are approaching the target, etc., etc. Planet Coaster videos, because I have to speed them up so much, and it's like, again, 4K color corrected footage, it plays back very, very slowly. So I really often struggle to talk about what's happening on screen because the playback is so slow for me in the preview. I end up just talking about absolute nonsense for the entire video. And, you know, I feel like I should bring up Planet Coaster because I feel like Planet Coaster 2 I was really excited for because I was like, oh, I can make Planet Coaster videos again. It's going to have so many fixes and features that make it really good. But it kind of launched in a really janky state. And I played it for a bit and I was like, I hate this. This is awful. And so I just sort of put it to one side thinking like, okay, the devs will hopefully keep updating it and keep making it better, and eventually it'll be playable. And I think it's had like its 4th major update now, or 5th major update, and I've been told it's basically good now. So maybe I'll try and pick up Planet Coaster 2 at some point. I'm getting a lot of requests actually from people asking me to play Planet Coaster 2. So maybe I'll give that a go. It's not really been as popular. Like, it hasn't reached the same Steam count as Planet Coaster 1. I think just Planet Coaster 1 came out at a time when we were so starved for theme park builders. Like, the only other one we had was Roller Coaster Tycoon World, which was awful in every objective measure. So we were already starved for theme park makers. Like, before Planet Coaster, it was just Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. I mean, people like 2 more than 3. Some people, I preferred 3. I'm just putting that out there. This is like, I'm very well aware, by the way, this conversation is only relatable to like 2% of this video's viewers, by the way, so I'll try and keep things concise now. Oh, by the way, I wanted to mention this. I wanted to deorbit this space plane to leave no debris left in orbit, but it doesn't have a probe core on board, so I left one Kerbal, Kerbin, on board. I basically got her to orient the spacecraft retrograde, fire its engine, and then immediately bail and just let it coast there kind of on its own. So yeah, we're kind of watching it to make sure it does get destroyed, but I have no control over it at this point because there's no Kerbal on board, hopefully, and there's no kind of probe core either to control it. So yeah, I'm just watching it. My hope is it would crash into the sea, but somehow, statistically, the statistics were not on my side, and we ended up crashing into the ground. But hey, this could ensure that it was completely destroyed. So, there we are. Anyway, what was I talking about? Yes, I feel like Planet Coaster came at a time when like we were really starved for theme park makers, but now it is current year. We have lots of theme park makers, and kind of a lot of people have like got it out of their system with Planet Coaster 1, and so now Planet Coaster 2, I don't feel it's going to be as popular as Planet Coaster 1, so I don't know how much sense it makes from a person trying to run a business on YouTube perspective. I don't want to get too like cold and clinical, but I found that when I stopped making Planet Coaster content, the views for my other videos went up massively because the algorithm wasn't like, hey, this guy's making videos, but like 10,000 people are watching them, so maybe we shouldn't promote this guy's content in the algorithm. But now I've stopped making Planet Coaster videos, suddenly my views have gone up. So I don't know how much sense it makes from that side of things, but you know, I enjoyed the Planet Coaster videos. I enjoyed just sitting back and just rambling about nothing for like 45 minutes whilst a little theme park was coming together. I don't know. I say that as if that's not what this video was, just me just rambling. We're now at nearly at 35-minute mark at this point. But yeah, maybe I should talk about what's happening on screen and move on from Planet Coaster, which again is probably not relatable to most people in this audience. I am so sorry. But yeah, here we are planning our Kerbin encounter. So Jool and kind of the other planets beyond Jool are so far away from Kerbin that it's pretty easy to just get a forced encounter by using prograde, retrograde, radial in, and radial out on the maneuver node maker. You can kind of just force one. I was struggling a bit here, but as you can see, those grey separation nodes are being forced closer and closer together. Basically, I've done a dual escape burn at roughly dual periapsis, and then I've done a mid-course correction burn to kind of force that encounter. Fairly expensive trip, but we have the Delta V budget just about to do it. So here we are doing our dual escape burn. Let's just speed that footage up to get things moving along. And there's the green giant disappearing beneath us as we time warp out of the Jool system. Look how happy the Kerbals look, knowing that their suffering on Laythe is finally at an end and they are finally on their way home. So although I kind of made a maneuver node that would get us a Kerbin encounter, I didn't quite trust it because that maneuver node was made on the predictive path of another maneuver node. So now I just deleted it. I'm just making it again on our actual orbital path to ensure that we get to the outcome that we want, because we don't have that much delta V left. We've only got 701 meters per second. As you can see, this burn is just shy of 600 meters per second. So the numbers are going to be pretty close. We're going to be having only like 100 meters per second remaining at the end of this mission. So I really wanted to make sure that the maneuver node I was planning was going to be as accurate as possible, which is why, again, I plotted on our actual orbital line rather than, keeping the previous maneuver node that was made on the predictive path of the previous maneuver node. That was a really difficult sentence to say, I think. But regardless, we're now executing that burn, almost depleting our entire remaining fuel reserves. There are 150 meters per second remaining, with, of course, a little bit more burn left to do in this maneuver. So I just wanted to zoom down to get a good view of Kerbin, just to make sure that our Parallax's pass would be as close as possible. So yeah, the maneuver node wasn't fully accurate, so now we're just going to have to quickly plan kind of a second mid-course correction just to fine-tune that Kerbin encounter. Oftentimes I just kind of guess it by just pointing our ship in random directions on the nav pool until our orbit does what I want it to do. But I was like, no, we've not got that much delta V remaining. I want to try and be as sensible about this as possible. So I'm just making a minimal burn. So turns out if I just burned anti-normal, it would have been fine. But yeah, now we've got a nice Kerbin Parallax that intercepts its atmosphere. We can go ahead and just time warp around and go there, I guess. Now it is a fairly low Parallax. So low that I was like, we've only got the inflatable heat shield, which isn't as good as the ablative heat shields in terms of resisting heat. So we probably want to raise that Parallax to a slightly higher point, so we're not going to just explode when we get to that lower part of the atmosphere at really high re-entry velocity. So I did a quick radial out burn just there, massively overcooked things, so now I'm doing a little radial in burn to compensate. And then that's it. That should be all the engine burning that we need to do for the rest of this mission. I am going to wait until the very last second before we detach that lower stage, though, just so we have a nice firework display to watch. Keeps the video interesting, I guess, because we are, of course, entering on the night side of Kerbin, so there's not going to be much to see visually. So, having a nice exploding set of nuclear engines, I'm sure, is very safe and entertaining, not just for you and I, but the Kerbals on board as well. I mean, look at them. Jebediah, Kerbin smiling. Oh, now they're getting a bit scared, actually, including Jebediah, which is very difficult to do. But now they're happy again. Kerbin and Kerbin all looking really happy, as is again Jebediah, as we descend. And yeah, we've got a bit of a temperature gauge showing up on the inflatable heat shield, but it wasn't too bad, and that has now passed. I actually set our parachutes I wanted to try and deploy them kind of realistically. So we have these drogue chutes. They're going to slow us down initially, and then we're going to cut them and then deploy our main chutes. I've kind of done this using action groups. There we are. So we've cut the drogue chutes. Now our main chute has deployed. I've only got the one. I mean, I know visually it's 3, but it's only a single parachute piece in the game. Then we can jettison the heat shield. We're still coming down fairly fast, 11 meters per second, 12 meters per second. So as we approach the surface, we're going to deploy the remaining parachutes just to slow ourselves down to safe splashdown speeds. Although you might be wondering why we've got landing gear on this thing, even though we're splashing down. I didn't actually plan where we were going to be landing, so I added landing gear just in case we'd end up coming down over land, but didn't need it. And I guess I could have used it here, because technically we have landed on the inflatable heat shield, which I kind of wanted the ending shot to be in the day, and I couldn't time warp properly when sat on this heat shield, so I tried rolling the craft off. Couldn't manage it, so I just used Vessel Mover to move it into the sea. So does that render this mission null and void because I used cheats at the very end just so that we could get this shot here of the craft in the ocean? I guess you guys will have to be the judge of that. But yes, that is the video finished, I think. So big thank you to my Patreon and YouTube supporters who, if you check the video description, if your name is there, you can get access to this video's craft file. And maybe I'll put the save file there as well so you can have a better crack at this mission than I did. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episodes of the Blunderbirds. And if you did enjoy it, then of course leaving a like down below is always very much appreciated. Leave a comment as well. Tell me what your favourite long grain rice is. Me, I love basmati rice myself. So what a stupid way of ending this video.